Welcome back, everyone. Well, the United Nations Annual Climate Change Conference, COP27, just wrapped up. It was held in Egypt, and as expected, it's been nothing but hypocrisy from the climate elitists in attendance. Starting at the beginning of the summit, before it even kicked off, when it was reported that 400 private jets landed in Egypt for the conference. 400. Now, I'm no weatherman, but that doesn't sound very eco-friendly, does it? That's because it's not. These elitists don't actually care about saving the planet. That's not what this conference is about. Ask Greta Thunberg. It's much bigger than that. It's about control and using climate change as the threat to get it. But in order to gain control, they need to know who they're monitoring, which is why climate czar John Kerry and Al Gore are proposing a climate trace app that will track and trace all CO2 contributors globally. And guess what this plan will be modeled after? The COVID vaccine mandates. Watch.
It takes courage by these executives who have made the decisions to be part of this. And we modeled it somewhat on the experience of what happened with vaccines. The government said, we'll pay for it. And so people who were putting capital at risk knew that they could get a return on that capital, or at least cover their expenses in the case of something like vaccines, where human life was so at risk. Well, human life is at risk now in the context of the challenge of the global climate crisis.
Mark Morano joins me now to discuss. He was at this summit. He's founder of the Climate Depot and author of the books The Great Reset and The Green Fraud. Mark, thank you for being here. A CO2 tracking app? Really? So what? People are, every time you drive your car, it's going to get logged in some database. Every time you hop on a flight, it's going to get logged in some database. Is that what John Kerry's talking about here?
Well, it's John Kerry and Al Gore announced it's called the Climate Trace app, and it's a partnership with Google. And right now, I think they want to go after like 80,000 individual emitters. This includes small farms, energy plants, anything to do with transportation, energy emissions. Allegedly, they're not starting with people yet, but keep in mind, as humans, we inhale oxygen and exhale carbon dioxide. And by the way, this is my hat just back from Egypt. I'll go ahead and take it off now. But what this is a Chinese social credit system, because what they're trying to do is shame companies. And Al Gore has stated it directly. This is designed to go after companies to force them into compliance with the net zero Green New Deal United Nations agenda. And it's not a far-fetched thing to think they're going to go after individual emitters, your vehicle. And again, humans emit carbon dioxide. This is probably the most totalitarian thing to come out of this United Nations Climate Summit thus far.
Now, you like I said, you were at the summit, you attended it. Keep in mind, even Greta Thunberg boycotted this, calling it a greenwashing scam.
Yes.
Did you get the sense while you were there, obviously Biden spoke, John Kerry, they were all there, they all took their private jets to attend. Did you get the sense that they were actually concerned, the speakers were actually concerned about a so-called climate emergency, or did something else more nefarious seem to be at play? Did you get the sense they actually cared about any of the stuff they were saying?
Good question. The only people that I got a genuine sense of care were the young people. Now, there were two events I personally attended. One of them was the youth delegation, and these were like high school, college kids in their 20s, and they seemed legitimately, spooked by climate change, right? Even more disgusting than that, though, however, was the elementary school kids. And I went to this event last week, elementary school kids who basically stood up and they showed videos of the kids, and some of them attended, that we should be on the swing set, we should be in the playground, we shouldn't be at a United Nations summit trying to save the planet. To which I wanted to scream out, good, go back to the swing set. You're not needed here. You don't need to save the planet. So those are the only people I could find that were concerned. Otherwise, you had the World Health Organization here. You had, as you mentioned, all the powers that be, Google, every major corporation was here, from Bank of America to Siemens to IBM, and just a litany of international corporations, all trying to cash in. And as you mentioned earlier, Addison, on the mandates, on the subsidies. And if government policy they know is going to go away, then they know they can invest in a direction, because just like the vaccine manufacturers, reaped billions, they know that if they invest, they can also reap billions based on where they sense climate policy is going. It's a corporate government collusion. I saw very little concern about actual climate, and you can just look at it. The food that was flown in, exotic food, the 400 private jets. I took videos of all the private drivers out at the airport as people arrived, getting their private drivers in their limos from the airport. So this was a summit that was all about power and control and not the climate.
So the young people are the only ones who seem genuine about their concern for a supposed climate emergency, but that genuine concern presumably is only due to these globalist hacks, right, Mark? So their concern is thanks to these people who couldn't care less about protecting and preserving the climate. They don't care about any of this stuff. So the young people's worry about the future of our planet is coming from people like Joe Biden, who last year at COP26, I think had what, an 85-car motorcade flown overseas to go to this thing. That's who these people are.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. In fact, they usually have, and I haven't seen the numbers on this, but the carbon footprint of these 10-day conferences is usually larger than entire African nations' annual emissions combined, several nations. That's how ridiculous they are at these summits. And you mentioned Greta earlier. We can't go without mentioning this. Greta was not missed. You know why? Greta called the conference a scam full of greenwashing and lying, and she was dead on accurate. But she wasn't missed because move over, Greta Thunberg. She was replaced at this summit. A 20-year-old Instagram influencer became the official UN climate advisor. She had her picture taken with the UN General Secretary. She wore skimpy little outfits all over the place, showing off her, almost in bikinis, walking around in some of the photos you can see. And this was who replaced Greta. They've already moved on. This was the first summit Greta Thunberg moved since rising to prominence. And now the UN has said, Greta who? We've already got our new influencer. I'm trying to get her name here. Her name is Sophia Kiani. And you can look at that at Climate Depot. I've got photos of her with the UN up, and it's amazing how fast they replace you when you walk away.
Yeah. Now, Mark, I do want to play a clip because this event did not go off without some protests, right? There were some protests, a dangerous insurrectionists, you might call them. We have exclusive footage of two in particular, two insurrectionists. It's worse than January 6th. Let's play that.
No net zero, no green energy mandates, no net zero.
Mark, just terrible stuff. I feel like I've seen one of those individuals, one of those terrorists in that video before. I feel like I've seen him.
Well, we couldn't allow this to continue. We had to join in on the fun. It looked like so much fun throwing soup on paintings and super gluing yourself. So we did this at the museum. Now ours was a faux protest, and you could even see we copied to the letter AOC. We put our hands. We did the fake handcuff the same exact way AOC did about a month ago at the Capitol, where she put her hands behind her back to imply she was handcuffed. But our message was dead serious. No green energy mandates, no net zero. We have to start protesting back against this. No, I'm not advocating for super gluing or throwing soup on paintings, but they can't have all the fun, so we decided to do it. We also got to ride a camel and got to go to the pyramids at this. And I thought I was going on a low emission vehicle, but it turns out I was criticized because of all the methane released from the camel. So the belching and the other end weren't very eco-friendly, apparently. I wasn't very climate-friendly.
Now, in perspective, what key takeaways do you think that Joe Biden is gathering from the COP27? Do you think that the things that were discussed here, the speech Biden gave, what ramifications do you see playing out here in the United States in the next couple months?
Well, I think what's happening at this summit, it's that COVID, climate morphing, and it's a corporate government NGO, not NGO, but international organization, UN, World Health, World Economic Forum, fusion. And so what I think the Biden is coming out of this is where democracy goes to die. And I think looking forward, Biden is looking at a climate emergency, which will give him 140 new executive government powers. I think they're looking at just imposing their agenda, not having to worry. If the Republicans get the Congress, they're not worried. They're going to impose this through the administrative state, through the executive branch. They don't need democracy. And that's what this UN climate summit really advanced, with all of these global corporations working together with the World Health Organization, with the World Economic Forum, with the United Nations, and all the money. Now, what's funny about it is Biden went to this COP27 bragging about what $270 billion from the Inflation Reduction Act. And Al Gore gave a speech right before him calling for $4 trillion per year. So Biden showed up with literally pennies on the dollar for what they're demanding now. Biden is way behind this. So, I really think what's coming out of this, though, is less democracy and just more we're going to assert our will using the power of corporate government collusion with, with these companies.
That's all it's really ever been about for these people. Time to wake up, America. Mark Morano from the Climate Depot. Great to have you on. Glad we could have you recap this summit for us. Thank you. Love the hat.
Thank you very much, Addison. Appreciate it.
Take care.